Two, and we have a quorum.
I'm ready, I'm rolling,
Oh, you have to get ready, okay.
I'm rolling.
Since I'm out of loop, we're gonna let Bob chair it for me this one, hopefully by
Okay.
next one. I'll be
We'll
back
open
up.
we'll open the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. And we, first order of business, we have minutes to take up, Mr. Secretary.
We have minutes, and they've been distributed. Evan did a very good job with the minutes, so I'll move the minutes.
Is there a second?
Are you moving both sets of minutes? or
No, just the minutes of April 16th, 2025.
Because I have a comment on that.
On the April minutes?
16th, yeah.
Okay, well, I move the minutes, and somebody should
I'll
second them,
second
and
it.
then we
Okay,
can
yes,
discuss them.
okay, so we can discuss. Yeah, that was a meeting I was not able to attend, and in reading it, I sort of got confused. It talks about the, I think it was, it had to do with the water tie-ins, and it had the, I think it was called 875, it was called Westport Plaza. So first of all, where is Westport Plaza? It just says Westport Plaza, no address.
Would you like to add an address?
Well, if the, yeah, I'd like to
So-
know where Westport Plaza
I think
is.
that one would be the one where Westport Credit Union is?
Yes.
No.
Well, this,
Well, if it is, it's not called that, but,
Yeah.
okay.
So where is the,
So that's 655.
Well, I mean, I know the credit union owns part of that property, and I think the rest
Right,
is
right. I'm on the board of directors of the credit union, so I'm familiar with that. So that's 655 State Road. And I think that clearly ought to be stated, because I thought it was down, there's another one, I think it's called 875.
it is.
Yeah, that's Cohort, that's what Don Rogers owns that one, yeah.
Yeah, that, right, the Rodericks. And again, no address, but it does refer to it. And I got the impression that that one isn't ready yet for a tie-in, that we have to wait. There's certain things that are holding up that one. Is that correct, Roger?
It is, yep.
Yeah.
So we're still coordinating with the
So,
property.
anyway, I just think the locations ought to be listed.
okay, so Westport Plaza, a commercial development, what's the address?
Are we talking to the credit union one?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's 655 State Road.
66, so,
Because I actually thought it was the other one, the brick one, Roderick's one.
Yeah, I know he was.
meanwhile, discussion regarding water service for 875 State Road remain ongoing. Okay, so we make that change, Evan?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the other question that I had, I don't know that it's directly in the minutes, but the streets where we're doing the tie-ins, I go by there today, and I saw the pavement cut up for Washington Street. Right? Okay. But there's, how many streets toward Lincoln Park are we doing? I thought we were only going to Washington Street. Is that wrong?
On Route 6, we go to Washington Street, but before that, at Greenwood and Osborne, we turn right and go up to Macomber School, hit Gifford, and then turn right, and come back down to Route 6. Plus, East Bridge Road from Gifford to Route 6.
Right, yeah, I'm not talking that area at all. I'm talking about one block toward Lincoln Park. You're by Pete's Nursery, before you get to Pete's Nursery. And one block, I saw the road was also cut up for that street.
So if I can speak to that, so I think what you're looking at is some of the laterals that are installed and a left at the intersection of State Road and some of these side streets.
Right.
So that at some point, if the town decides to expand the water service, they don't have to go back into the state highway to do that.
Right, and I understand that.
Yeah.
But I thought we only went toward, I'll call it Lincoln Park for lack of better things. I thought the farthest we went that way was to Washington Street, but I see the road even, at least one street
Yeah, so
beyond that.
I understand what you're saying. So we did as part of the last change, not this recent one, the one before that, the change order, we extended the pipe up to 875 State Road as part of a change order to put more water pipe.
Okay, there's 875
It's-
State Road, is that a residence or is that
The other-
plaza?
It's the plaza, Cocaset Plaza.
Right, but this is more toward Lincoln
There
Park.
there should be no other pipe past that.
Okay, well, maybe I didn't say, it, but I
Yeah.
saw the black pavement.
Might have been a utility that, but that's unrelated to the water project.
I believe that's Walt Street, that's been cut.
Yeah, that's
That's been
right.
cut for a while already, I think even before the crew got down
Yeah.
to that area.
Yep.
Thank you.
No, I have a question before we really get started with the agenda, probably for Roger.
We're on the minutes. We're discussing the minutes.
Are we discussing the minutes?
Yes, it's got to be
When can I ask the question?
after we finish with the
It's different in Fall River,
Well,
the way they
the
handle
reason I brought it up with minutes is because I didn't know if that was discussed, I wasn't at the meeting.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was discussed at that meeting to go another block or 2 blocks or whatever it
Right.
was, and it would not be on the record. So
Okay.
anyway, that's why I'm saying.
Okay, well,
No, that was approved when we had, when the bids came in under our budget. So we got very good bids. And we had the $4 million in the grant. And so it was decided to extend down beyond Bread and Cheese Brook and make that crossing, because we had the complication of, we actually used the existing aqueduct that's in the road to get in,
Right.
get the other side. So we extended as far as we could down to that plaza, almost down to where the old Railroad Park Road runs in.
But that's Washington Street here.
Washington Street, and then we still had money left over, and then we, at a vote of the meeting, we decided to move back into the neighborhoods and do another neighborhood, to make another loop. So that was, I don't remember exactly when, but one of the earlier April or May meetings, we voted that here too. We certainly didn't want to give back the grant money. So that's why it was extended from the original contract.
Thank you.
shall we take a vote?
Yeah, all in favor of the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll recuse myself.
That's unanimous. I didn't pick up my agenda. Do you have a copy of the agenda?
I think I have an extra copy.
Yeah, me too. I thought- 'cause
I'm
Paul
sorry,
was supposed to have it.
I printed all the attachments and
Yeah.
everything, but
Here,
Extra
here's,
right there. There's a copy machine right
I
there.
need that back. That's the one signed by the clerk.
That's the
the official one.
update,
Copy machine
Jim.
right there.
I hate
Well, I have an extra copy.
Okay, good. Thank you.
all right. I apologize for that. I printed a lot of stuff and I didn't print my agenda.
Leave it in there, folks.
Reappointments are next.
So I'd like to note there that Jerry Catino has decided not to ask for reappointment. And I just want to thank Jerry for his couple years of participation and contribution to this committee.
Thank you. Thank you.
All the years working on it, Jerry, not just a couple, right?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I've been on like economic development back about 20 years ago, weren't
Oh,
we?
yeah, recreation, all kinds of,
And probably 50 years on the zoning board, right?
almost. And 13 years with the Housing Authority. Yeah,
You definitely paid your dues.
yeah. Well, I'm recognizing that I'm getting older, I only got so much time left, and I got a lot of projects I have to be done.
That's good.
I know how you
That'll
feel,
keep you
Terry.
going.
I don't even want to leave my yacht at this point in my life. That's how retired I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
A wise man, because I have those conversations with myself all the time. We're not going to meet in July and August.
Well, let's just go over reappointments.
Okay,
I am going to sign up again. I think I already have been.
yeah,
And are you,
I am.
okay.
I am.
Annie?
Yes.
You're going to be the select board rep.
Yeah, well, I got one more year left on that, so yeah.
Yeah.
After that, I'm not gonna be a selectman, I'll be a planning board.
Evan?
Yep.
Joe? Joe and
Since
Joe?
18 years old, I've been working in sewers. I don't see why I should stop now.
So the two Joes and everybody else except for Jerry, okay.
I got you beat, Joey.
Okay.
Upcoming meetings, I don't think there's a need to meet in July and August. And is there,
So September,
I would say the only thing is, as long as we can get through on, so everybody knows what we're doing for connections, because I've been getting a lot of calls.
okay,
Which, I don't know, we could probably resolve that tonight, no?
Yeah, I've got an update, we can talk about
Yeah.
that, it's been, I think you'll be
But I'm
happy.
good, maybe we should take the summer off if we
I
get that off.
suggest Wednesday, either September 10th or the 17th.
What are they, both Wednesdays? Both Wednesdays?
Both Wednesdays, Wednesdays at 6:30, because that's been our traditional time. But okay, so I
Good with that.
propose the 17th.
I won't be here on the 17th, but I could do the 10th. It doesn't,
Whatever I,
Well,
Yeah.
you're our vice chair, and so,
What about the Wednesday after the 17th?
well, I'm gonna be away. I mean, you guys can have I'm gonna be in Ireland. You guys can have
I mean,
a,
we could probably do it without.
Yeah, you're
I'll
doing
be
it in
contact-
Ireland.
I'll be in contact with, I'm on the planning board, so if there's any questions.
I'm willing to help Bob out and go with the 10th.
we just need a quorum, so.
Then we can be free the rest of the month at the same time.
I'll try to be here just as school starts on that week.
Oh, yeah,
Some contracts, other contracts the week before. I might not be done for 6:30, but I'll try my best.
So what date are we looking at?
He said the 10th. would be
The 10th.
yeah. So I'll put for the 10th, and I might be running a little bit late, or I'll try to be on time.
Okay. Okay, that's good, okay.
And that's September, correct?
That would be September.
yep. There is a old business of, remember we had discussed the water rates that the existing enterprise fund has? And we voted here at our last meeting to go to the Board of Selectmen and to advise, recommend to them that they increase their water rates to $8.30 from $7.04 to $8.30. And Murray and I met with the Select Board, and they voted effective to increase the rates. And that won't bring the enterprise fund completely solvent, but it brings it close to being solvent.
It brings it close to breaking even.
Right.
But there could be, there's some variables at play here, because we have 32 new customers, and we can watch the volume increase. And I know that our town administrator continues to negotiate with the town of, city of Fall River on the rates they charge us. And so there's a possibility that there could be changes that could bring the water line into break even.
Yep.
That's what I'm hoping for. They kind of have, grow into break even. But we had a 4-to-1 vote. I was a little disappointed that the newest member of the Select Board, Jake McGuigan, voted against the rate increase. But he said he campaigned against water and sewer, and he's just going to vote against water and sewer every time it comes up. And so it's just something to keep in mind as we move forward.
And that, and this was not, this vote is for the existing enterprise fund, for the existing water system that we own and have to operate, and not some expansion. It was a position that was hard to understand. Plumbing inspectors, Mandy, you had that as
Yeah,
a-
well, that's what I was talking about. The plumbers that called me about connections and stuff, I think that might be a good way to do it, since they're in charge of the meters anyway. And if we use that as the permitting process, the plumber pulls the permit, and be responsible, if they hire somebody to excavate or they subcontract it or whatever, at least that's, because we don't have any drain layers permits.
Okay.
So it's gonna be a problem without that, and we're gonna just have people digging without permits, and call them dig safe, and who knows
Yep.
what else can happen. So if a licensed plumber is legally is legally a drain layer in Massachusetts, so if we let plumbers do it,
Yeah, I mean, for people to make the connection into their building requires
plumber.
a plumber and requires a permit from the building department.
So in all our correspondence with all the residents, all the surveys, the right of entries, when we reach out to them and we have an update as far as how many have already been connected, we let everybody know, and I've talked to the plumbing inspector here, that what ends up happening is we'll hand you a permit, but you need to get that installed by a licensed plumber who pulls a permit with the plumbing inspector. And I talked to Joe Forever just this week, so I'm really,
That's one of the guys reached out to me.
yeah, I've been in contact. The selectmen just voted to approve the permits. I'm sorry, the meters. We bid out the meters in accordance with Mass General laws. EJ Prescott got the low bid. We're actually right on target with respect to what we estimated. We ordered some extra meters so that if down the road future folks want to connect, we can just hand them a meter. So the coordination between the town plumbing inspector and the residents, everybody's going to be aware, and we're making sure everybody knows that they got to check the pressures. They may need pressure reducing valves. So the coordination's been pretty good. And like I said, I just talked to Mr. Ferrari this week,
Now,
or last week.
but is that gonna go through the building department, or we're gonna go through Linda Correa?
The building department.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what will Linda Correa's involvement be on that?
It would be it was just maintain, she just in terms of the water quality, the testing that she does now, and she's involved when we do the pressure testing and the disinfection of the water pipes, she's there. So she's a licensed water operator, so I talk to her pretty regularly, so when we're doing that type of work, she's involved. Yeah.
Now, are we still able to provide the meters at no cost to the people tying in at this point?
Yes,
Be able to continue for a while?
yes.
Great.
Now, also on the permitting, so the building department's gonna be responsible for whatever our obligations are in our contract with Fall River? So like for commercial connections, I don't know how that's going with our negotiations and stuff like that on.
That I don't.
What we gotta pay for, because I know we have to pay Fall River something for connections.
That I don't know. I don't know how the IMA
There was
works.
stuff in
with
the
Fall
old contract, but, I mean, I wasn't around when that was done, and
Yeah.
I think we're still up in the air with the contract.
I'm not aware of how that, I do have the IMA with Fall River, and I can look at that and see what it says in terms
Just
of.
make sure the building department coordinates with whatever we gotta do to them.
Yeah, good
They
idea.
don't know what we're doing out here.
Yeah, I'll make sure of that, I'll check that, yeah.
That's a good segue to our next item, which is, Roger, your update.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. So in
This
terms,
is, for the public, this is, Roger is Fernandez is the town's consultant overseeing the water extension contracts. And this is an update on the work that we've accomplished to date under our $4 million grant that we received.
thank you. So in terms of the water main, ostensibly it's completed. It includes all the Route 6 portion, Gifford, Osborne, Greenwood Avenue. We added East Briggs Road, Fifth Avenue and Sixth Avenue, plus the extension up to 875 State Road. There's some minor work that still needs to take place in the state layout, which would include the blow-off assembly at 875. We just got comments back from the state that they will allow that blow-off connection, with the understanding the town would be responsible for maintaining that catch basin or whatever, whatever structure we're tying in that blow-off connection to. So it's actually not a really big deal in terms of the maintenance, and we're happy about that. The next section I have here is just a summary of costs. We had the base contract, as the vice chair indicated, which was $3.6 million, which was, we were happy with that number, was competitively bid. We had an addition of $1.53 million in change orders, and project costs were incurred that included those extensions I just mentioned, the East Briggs, the Fifth Ave, Sixth Ave, and some other aspects of the project that required a change order. Change order 1 and change order 2 has gone before the Board of Selectmen, and both have been approved. So in total, on the next page, you'll see that we've identified all the funding sources, the ARPA funds, the PFAS grant, our expenses, both change orders and other cost overruns that we requested in large part. And at the end, we end up with a positive balance currently of $259,327.
Roger,
Yeah.
question. Can we assume that that 259 is really earmark money? That our town administrator would have used up all the other ARPA money first and left the earmark as the balance?
The one that is not time sensitive, both the ARPA funds, I believe, are going to be time sensitive. We have to expend those funds. The $4 million grant, obviously, as the vice chair says, we definitely want to spend all that money, so the balance would be probably left in the earmark.
Okay, good.
Yeah. In terms of construction schedule, something we just touched upon a couple of moments ago, we still have some pressure testing and disinfection remaining to be completed in sections of Route 6. This is pending the culvert crossing. We need to be able to get the water on both sides of the culvert in order to charge the pipe to do that work. And we've been working with Mrs. Linda Carrere to help administer that work, get the water samples, and make sure that the disinfection is going according to plan. The final service connections, I say are being complete, but basically they're complete. Those are the connections from the main to the curb stop or to your property line. All of those have been completed in all those roads I just mentioned. The culvert crossing permits have been secured, so we have all the permits we need for the culvert crossing. The final design for the slip lining is complete, and with a total cost of $262,000, which is already included in change order 2, which means it's already included in the table above, the budget table that we're showing up top. So that's all inclusive at $259,000. And that, again, was approved, that change order 2 was approved at the select board meeting on June 16th. We think that we're still about 4 to 8 weeks, I should say, away from doing that slip lining work. Again, slip lining where we're installing the pipe under the culverts. And the reason why there's some lead time associated with some of the materials, the piping itself takes a little while to get in.
Roger,
Yep,
could I ask you something?
sure.
So this compaction, you're going over this, this compaction, this is the compaction over the line
Yep.
during the construction?
Yes.
So you're the engineer, the consultant. So we also have an inspecting company, correct?
Yes.
Were they supposed to, I can see that one that failed was existing material.
Yep.
The other one's sandy. But what I'm getting at, are they supposed to do this under your rules with 4-inch lifts, 6-inch lifts? What was the?
Well, skipping ahead just a little bit, but the compaction in the state road is in accordance with the permit that the state
Okay.
asked for.
So it looks mostly good, but what I'm concerned about is, so of course, water would be the ultimate compaction in the end.
Yeah.
In the way we've had heavy rains. So what I'm a little curious about is the couple that failed with the rains we've had. If there's a large settlement, and let's say there's a car accident on Route 6 or something, or a car gets stuck, or somebody gets hurt in the trench, Who would be responsible for that at this point?
It would be the contractor.
Contractor?
Yeah, when you issue contracts with the town, cities, you've got indemnification language in there.
Okay,
The trench patching that you see out there right now is temporary.
okay.
So they put that down and
By the
you
time-
allow for settlement time.
And with these rains, by the time you put the permanent patch, it should be okay.
Right, so when we see them get back on Route 6, it'll be for three things that they're gonna accomplish. One is to do the crossing under the culvert. Two will be to install a pressure reducing valve, which is a large concrete structure. And three will be to take up all the asphalt that's there now, all the patches, and replace that with, instead of 3 inches,
We have somebody keeping
7
an eye on them
inches.
couple of spots at least?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, so any place where we do it weekly is we drive the site and we take a look, and they've had to go back at a couple of spots and shim those little spots.
Very good, thank you, Roger.
Yeah, you bet.
Very good.
I got a question.
I'd like to ask a question. Regarding the culvert crossing.
Yeah.
I'm not clear.
Can I just get on the compaction before we jump onto the crossings on that? So who was the testing company?
Briggs Engineering.
Okay, and this is all the testing that they did?
Yes, I have the actual physical reports that I plan on making copies for you. Yeah.
And they only did one Proctor?
Yes.
Okay, because the whole thing was existing, because they were just redoing the material.
Right.
So they need to do Proctors along the way.
Yeah.
And that could be the reason why they failed.
Yeah.
But didn't we have, an inspection company too that was supposed to be
Yes,
out there?
ECI, yep,
Were they out there every day?
every day.
Okay, I'm just wondering, like, so if you did a test on December 4th, they only did one test that day,
Yes,
and it failed?
yes.
Why didn't they retest it?
Well, that's a good question. But I think if you continue to read in the summary, what we can do, and the contractor's aware of this, they've got to go back and take up all this material, at least down 7 inches plus, I think it's 8 inches of dense grade that they have to replace. So they're going to go down about a little over a foot. We can have them retest that, or if we want additional test pitting, we can make them go
Yeah,
back and do
it's
some tests.
too late for that. Yeah, I mean, right out of school, I did a lot of this work. I mean, and I used to do it with a sand cone.
I did
It's a little
too,
tougher.
Back in the
They got a
day.
nuclear meter. I
Yeah.
mean, one guy can do 50 of these a day. I don't understand why they just.
Oh, I'm sorry,
one-
wait a minute, I misspoke. I misunderstood the question. So what I provided in here was a summary of the range of the testing.
All right,
And I'm-
that answers the question.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, I totally misunderstood, yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes when you have a failure like that, it's more than likely, inexperience, and they're not using the right proctor for the
Yeah.
material. If the material's changing, and that's why it's kind of important, the other inspector that's on the job.
That's
to see
exactly
what the
right.
consistency with it.
Agree,
Okay.
100%, yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen, I did see a lot of stuff in the middle of winter when it was 9 degrees and people were complaining, and I said, they're doing a great job, it's 9 degrees. How are you gonna get that done?
That's exactly.
So, but, yeah, okay, sounds good.
So to your point, just to build on, so you're right, 100, when it's 9 degrees and you're dealing with frozen material, or it becomes exponentially more challenging. So at some point during that period, you told them, you gotta go home, we gotta stop, it's too cold to do this, because you're exactly right, when it gets cold like that, it becomes very challenging, but.
Back to my question about crossings. I'm just a little confused about where are these, is this related to Bread and Cheese Brook?
Yes.
The culvert crossings? And so my feeling is that for the future, if people are looking up these, where is it all recorded that we did it this way instead of the other way and all that? Is it just in an as-built plan of some sort?
Yes.
So it's there, right?
We have a record set of drawings.
Okay, so, only suggestion I would have is when
Did they locate
have
this
a
stuff with
report like
GPS?
that,
No, test pit. You
when
and I
we
saw
put
it.
in a report like this, that we ought to identify what culvert crossing we're talking about. I don't see Bread and Cheese Brook mentioned. And, something that's not likely to change. And then also to say something in here about it, because in the future, when they're looking around, I mean, an engineer would look and understand what we did and why we used the old aqueduct and so forth. But someone who's not an engineer would probably So I just suggested in some of these reports someplace, we should at least identify the crossing and indicate why we did that.
Okay.
Was the project, the other contract to oversee the construction, were they doing, who's doing the as-built? Does they get to have their own company that was doing the as-built as we're going?
So the resident project representative, the inspector, if you will, on the job, they put together all the swing ties, and then we send all that information over to Kleinfelder, and they're gonna put it in an engineered formal as-built with the whole,
In this day and age, we're using swing ties out there.
we could,
That was when we should have put the water main in.
we dig it, I talked to the people that dig it, he did offer up, and we still can do GPS, some of these surveys, so that's still on the table. We can still do that. Yep. But you're right, this day and age, we should do better than swing ties, yeah. So we'll work on that. The next section was just an update in terms of the residential and commercial connections. So this is the portion that extends the water from the curb stop at the property lines, whether commercial or residential, up to and into the buildings or the homes. So we've received, we were tracking 52 projects, 52 different properties. We've connected to date, actually now with this week, we've connected another 4, so we're at 36 properties have been connected. Out of the 52, 27 chose not to connect. I'm sorry, yes, out of the 52, 27 chose not to connect. We've got 7 commercial properties that we're connecting. Half of those are already done. Let's see, we got 5.
What 7 commercial properties have been connected?
Oh,
We can assume they're large users, right?
they're not large users.
They're not.
We do have Maynard Street, which is probably going to end up being, it's a residential application where the apartments are located. That's a good thing.
Did we get that apartment at the corner of Maple and Route 6 connected?
Not yet, but we're going to.
Okay,
We're
good.
going to, and I can talk about that now if you'd like.
No, this is, you did. You just did.
We haven't yet, but we're going to. Yep.
Do these commercial properties, the 7, does that include the Westport Credit Union
Yes.
Plaza? And is that counted as 1 or 2?
We counted it as one,
Just
even though
one.
there's multiple.
Because once we get in there,
Yeah.
we open it up.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
they should be a big user, I would think.
yes.
Yeah.
So Maynard, the Credit Union Plaza, Maple, those kinds of, the residential, those types of properties, particularly if they're residential or restaurant, we tend to get higher volume of
Okay.
water use.
But no car wash, huh?
No car wash.
They recycle the water anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
While we're talking about that
They
sort of
recycle
thing,
their water.
They do, oh.
We need a freezer is what we need.
You know
Commercial
that the
freezer.
Housing Committee is desperately looking for places to build more affordable housing. And at last night's Selectmen's meeting, Selectman Dutra mentioned that where the elderly housing is, Greenwood Terrace right now,
Yep.
there's room there to put some more. And I distinctly remember when we built Greenwood Terrace, the engineers said that we need to move all the buildings toward Route 6, which turned out to be a very bad decision in a way because there was nothing but swampland, and we had to put tons of fill. But they did that specifically to leave room in the back, which was up on a hill, to put in more housing if you ever wanted to. So my point in bringing it up is, do you need to in any way think about that or plan for that, or the amount of water they would use would be insignificant to to be concerned about. In other words, would there be any issues?
Do you know how much land is back there?
It's about 7 acres.
The 12-inch
Yeah.
main in the street is plenty of water.
Plenty of
for the-
Well, good thing about that is an expansion like that could help us with the sewer. Because you get that big mound in the front with the septic, and when you're gonna expand the back, that mound could become parking in the front. I mean, it could become.
If they had a
housing, too,
sewer.
If they had a sewer.
Right.
And,
And I think that's one of the,
that
that's
would
one
be-
of the reasons I have not personally brought it up, because I was the director of the Housing Authority at the time, and oversaw the entire construction. And I've not brought it up because, in my estimation, it would be the sewer that would be the more important part of that equation. And since that isn't happening at this point, I just haven't mentioned it, but since they mentioned it last night, the select board meeting, I felt that I should just insert that into the conversation.
To utilize that property, that would, it definitely would, with a sewer design in Route 6, there would be no reason to try to expand that without sewer. But that would be a key project for us to work towards getting sewer, because we're already looking to get it from Meatworks, now you're looking, move it up a little bit more. That's clearly a plus for us, and especially if it's uplands in the back. They
Yeah.
built on the worst land to save the back,
Yeah,
and
that's what they did.
we know how expensive the expansion was on that new septic too, so we don't want to be building septics for housing. It's going to make the housing too expensive. Very good point, Jerry.
So with that in mind, we've got quite a bit of, there's a fair amount of coordination to line up 36 different people and properties, and we've got all the right-of-ways signed and everything is in place. I will say before I go on to the next topic is, on the update is, the projects, it's been a bit of an education for me. Probably makes me feel good that, we go into these properties and we started off with a PFAS grant, but I was shocked to see we have some of your constituents and neighbors that had no water. Wells ran dry, or wells that were closely located to cesspools. They were not drinking their own water. Shallow wells that, I had to pull and look inside to figure out where we're going to connect, that sort of. And so you end up with a lot of people that were really hurting for clean water that this project brought water to. So you should feel, hopefully you guys feel good about
Well,
that.
we had
'cause
those-
it's a really
Yeah.
good thing.
Roger, as far as I'm concerned, like I said, I've been at this since 18 years old. You've done an excellent job.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
But I do have one more question.
Yeah.
I think for you, you could probably answer before the next topic, if
Yeah.
that's okay?
Sure.
So, along Route 6, at our last meeting, we had about $1.5 million left, roughly. And it looks like this report's 2 days old, and you said we've still got some things on the frying pan. And there's 259,000 left as of a couple of days ago?
Correct.
Okay, so what I'm concerned about is I travel the part of Route 6 where the old hydrants are. And they look terrible. They're unsightly, they're rusted. And the other day I took a peek, and I'm not sure the caps would come off. The threads are starting to corrode. I understand you have the new section, you've done a great job, but the money's going quick. And, we don't have, unfortunately, we don't have a water department, but we do have a fire department, and that is, as far as I'm concerned, on this board, important fire protection,
Sure.
as long as it could reach with God forbid, a fire on Route 6. Do we have enough money to paint those, or can our fire department in-house take the caps off and check them and test them so the necks don't break? Do we have enough money to paint those fire hydrants before we run out of money?
Well, keep in mind that if we're talking about the section where the water main was replaced, there's all brand-new fire hydrants throughout there.
Yeah, well, we did.
No,
The new,
he's talking about the old, where the.
no, I'm talking about the old ones,
Further up?
from Fall River to where you started.
Towards, fall back towards the existing main, I'm sorry.
It's part of our operation.
Yeah, I mean, how much does it cost Oh, we don't have, we don't have a water department.
That would be a decision, that the IOC would have to make a
Can we do something about that before we run out of money?
Well, we can make a recommendation to the water commissioners, who are, of course, the select board.
It's not only unsightly.
Well, one of
Are
the,
you
one of the things that
looking
we
at
should.
I
we should
believe it's
consider
unsafe.
With the fire department with this, we should get them hooked up with some equipment for, like when you blow off a fire hydrant, you need a special coupling and blow off, to blow off the fire hydrant correctly, that also tests the pressure. So if we got the fire department and some of their process and what they're out there working, checking these fire hydrants out, check that, document what the pressures are, so as people come in to utilize this system for the commercial use for sprinklers, we'll know what the flow rates are, which, looking at the old stuff from Facebook and Thorndike, and they were talking about standpipes, I'm psyched that we're building pressure going down and we need reducing valves, because that's like incredible.
So this brings up another issue, which should perhaps prolong the life of this committee. And that is, we are going to have a little water utility of 200 customers, and it needs oversight. And we are the Infrastructure Oversight Committee. Shauna Schufelt, our chair, when Bob and I went before the Select Board a couple of weeks ago to request the rate increase, I mentioned, the policy that the Select Board had set up in 2002, that we would automatically take the commodity rate from Fall River at 15% up to that,
right.
and bill it out to cover the operating
We went over
costs.
that at our last meeting.
And as Shauna said, well, we're not following this closely enough. And maybe we can help them by, continuing to be in existence.
Maybe if
As
they saw
we
that.
go forward, we can just oversee that,
Physical need.
our little water utility and make recommendations to the Board of Selectmen from time to time.
That's a very good point. Without a water department, I don't know if anyone is exercising those hydrants at all. I don't know.
Nobody is. I mean, the town administrator, Denise sends out the bills, Nicole does the accounting, and the highway department is in charge of the meters, but, it really needs oversight. We used to have Water Resources Management Committee from about 2012 to 2018, and we did
More than
oversee.
oversight, we need someone to actually do the work.
Yeah.
Well,
That
Well,
hydrants.
Well, you can use subcontractors for the work, but that was some of the problems. They had hydrants, they were waiting a year from the change out of hydrant, the subcontractors that they were using.
But hydrants need to be, they need to be greased, they need to be exercised, they need to, and they need to be painted. But the idea of.
Educated.
Actually get the.
And people need to
public
understand that you have to
connection
open the hydrant all the way.
open.
So that, we got contamination in that Route 6 area. They open up hydrants, cracking them, which I seen them flushing the hydrants with all the hydrants cracked. The bleed on the bottom of the hydrant's wide open, the groundwater's contaminated. You got a possibility of contaminating your whole system. So we gotta train everybody, including the fire department, because I'm sure the fire department might not even be aware of that. You'd start talking about a hydrant needs to be open all the way, all the time. Because when you shut it down, the pipe drains into the stone. And if the stone's in the groundwater, and when you close it, it's just the water in there drains out. And when you open it, it doesn't get in. But if you leave it cracked halfway, you can contaminate the whole system. There's have towns where guys pull up with no backflow preventer, filling up a hydroseeder with fertilizer, and they contaminate the whole system. So we need that education too, if we're gonna operate it.
There's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, and of course, money's the issue. Hopefully, we could work with the fire department to at least test them at a certain point. But I'm willing to almost bet that we could get the kids from Diamond High School as a project to paint them fire hydrants. And at that point, all we would have to do is pay for the paint.
Good idea. Do
Matter
they
of
still have
fact-
painting and decorating over there?
What's that?
Do they still have painting and decorating over there, like when I was in there? I know they changed a lot of stuff, but.
I know for a fact Diamond High School looks for projects. That's a pretty good project.
yeah, Diamond does a lot. Diamond's
Yeah.
done a lot for the
But,
American Legion post building.
I mean,
Cemetery, they did a lot of work up at the cemetery.
there's not that many of them.
Okay.
right now, thank God.
Roger, let's get through your report.
Sure. So that's an update in terms of the service connections, and I think we have right now about 5 more service connect. We're coming to the end of the service connections. We are continuously interest. People are figuring out their water's become available, and now they're having second. So I think that you're going to see a lot more people wanting to connect to the system. But we have a finite amount of money, and the contract is going to pull out for a little while and then finish up what we've got in front of us. We'll put together a punch list and figure out where we stand at that point, sort of wrap things up.
We holding a retainer, John?
Yes, yep.
And also, this, as a normal part of water construction, putting in the mains in the street and extending them onto to curb stops, so extending them out from under the street and onto the people's properties, or the business properties. That's a normal part of water construction. What we're also doing as a benefit to the people is if they sign up while we have the contractor there, we're actually bringing the water to their house. And that's very unusual, and was something that the town administrator had recommended as a way of being an incentive for people to tie into the water system. So, I think it's really a success to have people sign up for this, and I'm, I think we should be very pleased that this is happening. And to make your point, Roger, or to emphasize your point, we know that most of the lots in the north end of town can't meet today's health standards for separation from wells and septic systems. They're 5,000, 6,000, 3,800 square feet. We know that, and we know there are still the single biggest cluster of cesspools in the town are in the North District. So we're very mindful of the health risk, and that people's wells do dry up, and there are people that drink bottled water because they can't drink their wells.
Yeah.
Why don't you continue on with which I think is
I could tell you this, though, we have to meet and talk to each resident and each property. I've never been offered so much bottled water in my life. It's no joke. Everybody wants some water because all these people are drinking bottled water, and that's the gods, and they're ecstatic about getting water. So the biggest problem we have is Mr. Soares, as the chair has indicated, it's like, how quick can we make this happen? And so we'll get those meters ordered, and we'll start the next process. We're going as quickly as possible.
I think, like you said, those people, the happy customers, are going to spread the word.
Yeah.
We're going to get.
I
more.
think so.
We're very fortunate. Fall River has a pristine reservation.
Yes.
Pristine water.
It's something else we convey to folks.
And not many places can say the word pristine.
Yeah.
And not only do they have a water supply, and they're part of their water supply.
That watershed is
sits
fantastic.
in our watershed, but they have available capacity because their population has not been growing. So both on the wastewater side
Right.
and on the water side, they
Right.
have available capacity.
Right. Which is an
Which is an
excellent.
enormous benefit to us.
And that's why I'm always concerned about getting more and more water and sewer passed.
Yep.
I won't belabor, but the other, from a cost-benefit analysis, if you look at the total cost over time and what people are paying just for the filtration systems, and that doesn't include if you have to re-drill your well, I mean, you can be talking $10,000, $15,000, $18,000. So that basically will pay for your water for the next 15 years if you ever need to replace that. But anyway, I digress, so there's some benefit there.
The Maycomber School.
Wow.
Maycomber, yes. So Maycomber, we did hear from the school. They asked if they could start there, and I assume they want to do it because school's out now, but they want to start the internal plumbing. We're going to also provide them with the meter, so I would imagine they're going to be online very shortly. But the pipe is inside the building. It's ready to go. There's nothing left for us to do. It's just a matter of the plumber doing the work inside. The project's going to support the internal plumbing. I think that's included in the estimates that we've shown. And so the internal plumbing is going to cost about $36,000, as I recall. And that'll get the school up and running on town water.
Bob, I have one more bright idea, we'll call it a concern. So the money's going pretty quick, and we're starting to run out of money, which will render us almost obsolete when we run out of money, right? So we tried to add a few cents on, and, you know, it's tough with taxes for good reason. We tried to add a few cents on, so we would build, correct me if I'm wrong, Maury, like 50,000 we were looking at, hopefully, for stabilization fund with those few cents. We asked the selectmen for, something like that, 50,000 they gave us.
Yeah, right, 50.
Okay,
is a
so,
round
so
number,
my
yeah.
question well, you guys you and Bob are the pros, and the board would have to go along or not. Do we have to spend every cent of this last 259,000? We don't have to shoot for the 50,000. Can we save 25,000 of this as our own stabilization, call it what you may, for maintenance, or do we have to spend every penny on
No,
tie-ins?
we don't have to spend every penny. Well, if you look at if you go back onto page 2 of Roger's report,
Because guess what? Pretty soon, all them fire hydrants are gonna need to be maintained and
Yeah.
painted.
you know,
Yes.
so the stuff that we had to spend, is that we got a grant, and we had to spend that money for the water purposes. We had 2 ARPA monies, the monies that came directly to the town, and the monies that came to Bristol County for our share. Those monies we had to spend or return them to the federal government. So those monies we had to spend. The earmark is just our money sitting in, I think it's in a dedicated fund, but that money could essentially be
So
sitting,
what would we have to do? How would this board go about saving a few dollars of this money? Call it a rainy day, call it an emergency, call it maintenance. What would we have to do to go about that? We'd have to discuss an amount, we'd have to take a vote.
Well, it would be restricted to Route 6, but,
Well, I'm talking about the old fire hydrants on Route 6.
yeah, I know. And I'm thinking the money was originally for the extension or the expansion of water and sewer on Route 6. But I think our town administrator would have to make a
Bob just said we could
determination.
spend it anywhere,
Yeah,
or we could save some.
yeah.
Don't you think we should use it for the purpose? And
Well, we do.
We got that grant, how many years ago now?
There's been a couple.
Think we could try for another one?
What?
We may very well have a broken hydrant, a rusted hydrant.
Yeah.
A rusted line, a collapsed line, and we're gonna need a few bucks for the emergency, somewhere along the line with the water system. And-
yeah, I don't
and
think
the town doesn't have much money.
there's no plan to spend the 259.
No, not at this time.
So that 259,000 is after we're doing the work that we plan to do, that we have under contract, we have $259,000 left.
Was that contingency money? Did we use up contingency money?
I mean, I believe we were told at the last town meeting that we were, with taxes in Westport, it's great,
Yep.
it's great, our taxes, everything's great. But the way it comes in and goes out, we're basically flying by the seat of our pants, aren't we?
Always.
So the way the enterprise fund
Can't we
should
save
work,
a few dollars for an emergency out of this?
so the way the enterprise fund should work is there should be, out of that 15% premium we charge over the Fall River rates, there should be money there for maintenance and repairs. And the new rates that we just established should take care of that. Of the 50,000, 35,000 is for, maintenance and repairs. And then there's 15,000 for unbilled water, which means water loss. And that's something we should, our percentage of water loss is double what most towns and cities are. So that's a source of incremental revenues if we could fix that problem. So,
A lot of that is where,
so I think we maybe we could, we need to ask our town administrator that question, really, because our earmark was for water and sewer expansion. It wasn't for, like, maintenance of the existing water line. That's my 2 cents.
I've seen many, when I was the infrastructure in Fall River for many years.
Yeah.
And I've seen many of cave-ins, ruptures, frozen lines, old lines.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they happen in the summer, in the winter, in the middle of the night, and you need money.
Joe, do you know when that earlier water line was put in?
Which one?
The one, we have, the one that exists now, before
The
they.
one that went, at first it went to LePage's, and then it went to White's?
Yeah,
86, 87?
That was the 90s.
Was in the 80s, Joe,
80s.
late 80s.
Well, I don't think White's was until the 90s.
The water line was done in the 80s.
White's has always had their own deal,
Right after Kermel,
but it goes to Greenwood
I was
Terrace.
the inspector, I was the inspector on the UMass edition, where the old Kerr Mill was,
Yep.
and that was in 2000.
No, I'm talking about the Route 6 part of Westport that's had water for a while, that goes to Greenwood Terrace. It goes from the Fall River line to Greenwood Terrace.
I became the inspector in 1986 until 2001, and that was,
so I guess you didn't inspect.
that
the
first
connection-
one
You didn't
was not
inspect the
put in on
connection
my
I made to
watch.
Sam Sapiro in 1987 over there then, did you?
What,
So is that,
1987?
how long does
I
a
tied off that
hydrant-
line 1987.
How long does a hydrant last? Does it last 30 years, 50 years, 100 years?
More, if they're not painted.
They can last
and-
forever if you
And there's
maintain them.
corrosion on the threads.
Yes.
They're not maintained.
Yeah, okay. And you don't think ours are maintained?
Never.
Look out your window on Route 6 at those first hydrants.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. I mean, that's
They're a mess.
that's a reason why this committee should
They're a mess.
continue. One of the reasons, I think. So,
You don't think about the town administrator, we're gonna be getting a new town administrator by the next meeting, so.
we've got to educate him.
And well, one of the things like we we're saying about who's in charge of this, we're to push to the selectmen, so the selectmen are in charge of this, so
We don't-
we should be answering the questions to solve
We-
this problem unless we get a commission. If not, that's their job, and
We don't
let us
have,
do our job.
we don't have an engineer in Westport. We don't have a water.
No, but the job is posted now, isn't it?
You know, but we have a consultant, we have a consultant from our current phase. We know it would be nice if the guy, he's a pro, if he eyeballed it and he gave us an off, and we could talk about it, he could tell us you could eyeball and tell us what we're up against, them old hydrants, couldn't you?
Yeah, in terms of what you
Would
guys.
you do that for the town of Westport, Roger?
I'm sorry?
Would you do that for the town of Westport?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. I knew you would.
We've got 259,000.
How's that?
Yeah, that's-
I just saved those 10 grand.
You know, just look, the stuff you're talking about with respect to soliciting or it wouldn't go through the existing contract, similar to what we did with the meters. Even if you bid it out, it's not complicated, or if you had Diamond Kids do, or if you wanted something for the
Count the
fire
hydrants
department, the
before
dollar
they-
threshold is so low, it's a,
I don't think it's a lot of money, it might be a couple grand.
yeah,
But
that's
if-
not that
it's
big.
gonna- You know how
It's small.
you put the blow off on it,
Yeah,
and that's how you do it today.
yeah.
They shouldn't be blowing off with the meters, the fire hydrants half cracked, and that's what they've been doing.
Let's just
That was
count 'em and
Last year. And
paint 'em before they
especially with
rust away.
contamination out there,
Yeah.
that's a no-no.
Yep.
Okay.
See if we can get through your
Yeah,
report.
sorry, guys, yeah. We talked about the compaction stuff, so I'll skip over that. The last thing was just really, we've identified, as we have in the past, the perspective, actually, that's on page 4 of 7. The bottom, it'll tell you what page we're on, 4 of 7. We've got that table that lists all the different streets as potential additional locations that we can, neighborhoods that we've been kicking around for a while, so that hasn't changed since the last meeting, but probably that's a discussion for another day. And then really, again, it's just the compaction. So that's pretty much it for the update, I think.
Okay. So now we go on to the feasibility
And
study.
the map, and the map that's attached to the report shows where we've extended all these lines and the number of houses that are served. So this is really the map that illustrates where these lines are that we've extended.
Correct. And locations, the dashed lines show potential locations that we could go into. For example, on that little map, we'll see the East Briggs, 1,700 feet, We decided to do that, so that's actually completed, so that should be a solid line, really, so.
Right. That,
Yep.
that line is in now.
It is, yep.
Could you clarify what you mean with the last statement you made?
So-
It's already been installed?
Yeah, so these lines, these are all installed, see the solid
Right,
line?
right,
This is the existing pipe, this has all been installed.
but crossing 88 to the fire station.
This is a potential.
Okay, so that's not.
That's not in, but if you
So
decide,
which one are you saying has been put in?
this one here, Jerry, it's the East Briggs section.
East Briggs is.
Okay, just from there up to 88?
Yeah, originally it was a maybe, and now it is
My
no longer a
question-
maybe, it's
We-
done.
We did it.
My
Yeah.
question about that is, because you hear, or you read on social media, or maybe even more than that, oh, we're gonna get water up on Sanford Road, we're gonna get water to Our Lady of Grace Church, we're gonna get water to the old fire station. But at this point, that's a potential area of expansion,
Right,
but it's not a done deal.
right. Right
That
now,
ought to be
we
made
don't have the
clear.
money to do any of those.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah, Jim Hartnett
Yeah.
estimates that would cost another $5 million to
Right.
Yeah, so why don't
go
we ask
from
for
that Gifford-Briggs intersection up to Sanford and back to Route 6.
See,
5 million.
the way I see it, part of the reason why we don't have a lot of support, and it didn't get past town meeting, and it's not the fault of this committee, we don't have a staff person to do PR type stuff or keep people informed on social media and so forth. But something like that, might be something of a couple of paragraphs that for somebody who knows social media, or accurate information out of the shorelines, and so forth, could explain that, so that we don't have all these rumors that are going on. But anyway, that's just.
Well, we have a possible piece of money that we have not spent yet, which is the $959,000 CDS earmark from Representative Keating. And we're going to, actually, the purpose of this feasibility study here is to determine whether we build a little sewer stub, or whether we use that money to try to add a couple of these loops that Roger just
I
outlined.
understand that, Mark.
And the problem there, let me just finish, Jerry, but the problem,
Publicity,
huh?
getting accurate information out there.
Yeah.
Half of the reason we didn't get the sewer is, in my opinion at least, is because of all the false information that was
Yeah.
being thrown around. And we never counted it.
No.
We shouldn't use social media for that. We
We
need to find
shouldn't.
another avenue.
You say we should.
Shouldn't, because there's too much, not misinformation on social media.
But the
I think,
stuff-
aren't they working on the website for the town, it's supposed to be upgraded and the permitting and all that stuff?
Yeah.
I mean, that's where we should be putting it out on there, where it's easy for the people to find it. If we just get on social media and they start talking back and forth, they think this is a town website and it's not, and a lot of misinformation and a lot of problems why it
That's
didn't
what I'm
pass.
saying, we should take the offensive and put that stuff out there. But everybody on this committee, other than Roger, and he's our engineering consultant, we're all volunteers. How many of us have the time or the inclination or the expertise to sit there and put out accurate information to the media?
Your point is well made as we talk about the feasibility study. The feasibility study is something that we asked Roger to look at. And the feasibility study is because we have a direct congressional spending, federal money of nearly $1 million from our congressman. They're hard to get. We made an application and we were successful in getting that. It has to be used on water or sewer funds on Route 6. So we have that grant, and it becomes live in a way. If we have to use it in this fiscal coming year, and I think it doesn't have a deadline, but we need to commit it. It also requires a 20% local match, which we would have to go to the town meeting. So Jerry, to take your point, I don't think we should try to go to the town meeting without a real campaign. You know, really engage people, not something made up, part-time, do it when we can do it. You need a real political campaign to go and ask for money at the town meeting.
So how about if we look to the, like, we just see here with Swansea Plants Sewer, the commercial did it. So how about if we look to the commercial, say we got this much money to spend, we need a match. If the commercial customers that want to tie in, come up with the match to the grant, instead of going to town meeting.
Well, it depends what we use the water for, but it depends on whether they're benefited by the money as well. So the point is, we've been active in pursuing money, largely through the town administrator and the town planner, who's been writing these grant applications, and we were successful in getting one. Now the question is, now that we've got one, what do we do with the money? And Roger, we asked you to look at, since we have to use it for either sewer or water, is there possible with the $1 million and change that we have available to do a piece of the sewer, or do we do more water extensions since we know there is a water need? So you looked at that.
We did. We looked at that in, fair amount of detail. We looked at the, sort of the project approach, which would include approximately 2,700 feet of gravity sewer. We looked at installing that so that it'd be 12-inch, so that down the road, if the town decided to extend, the larger pipe would be there. One of the larger cost drivers on the project would have been the pump station that was originally proposed as part of the project that was bid out. The pump station alone would have been somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.12 million. So that became a challenge. And in terms of where these prices came up, whether it's the per lineal foot of sewer line or the pump stations that I'm referring to, we had a number of bids, and I took an average of all those bids, sort of, consider all the fluctuation in the bid items. But again, the average for this larger pump station was about $1.12 million. That pump station for the larger project did not include, but identified on the plans down the road, if the town extended, saw the flows that demanded a stabilization or an equalization tank, it would have, at some point later on, the town would have installed a $15,000 tank to do that. But again, that wasn't included in the original bid. So,
15,000 gallon tank.
15,000.
Yep.
Yeah, yep. So in order to sort of pare that back, what we did as part of this study is we looked at, well, what would a smaller package treatment plant that maybe we can look at modularly down the road. And a smaller plant, conservatively high, would be in the neighborhood of $600,000, almost half the cost. We then, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, and then we looked at the per lineal foot price of the pipe. We looked at some of the other engineering and associated soft costs, police details, what it would take to install the pipe in the roadway and not in the island like we did with the water main, because there's already a water main in that island. That would require a lot more extensive pavement repairs, and then removal of the concrete slab that's under the road, and some other miscellaneous costs, traffic control, utility support, trench dewatering, stuff like that. But in that case, the grand total for that 2,700 feet with a smaller pump station would have been about $3,072,000. In addition to the cost, in addition to looking at the cost, we made some of those assumptions that we just talked about, but we also looked at where were we with permitting. and it goes into greater detail in the report. And again, I'm jumping around a little bit, but the good news is the town does have the interbasin transfer approvals, which was a major hurdle.
Yes.
And that's not something that we would have to undertake. So if you looked at page number 10, I've identified all the different permits that we would be required to undertake, and which ones we would not. And so everywhere you see a check mark is an indication that we have it. Would be required, but we have approval. Again, Interbasin Transfer Act, we'd need a Mass DOT access permit. Probably would need an additional WP 59 sewer extension, which is not a big deal with the Mass DEP. And then local permitting, really. And I'm not sure where we stand with the IMA with Fall River, the intermunicipal agreement with Fall River regarding sewer, but that might be something that we might need to revisit if it hasn't been finalized. You might know better than
It
that.
has not been, but they're in discussions on that.
In discussions. So that
But essentially, all the big permits we have in hand.
we have in hand, which is a big, big hurdle.
Yep.
So
How long are they good for?
the ITA is good indefinitely.
Yes,
Good.
that's forever.
Indefinitely.
Just like our design.
So to build upon.
Money well spent.
On the vice chair's point, we have available to us $959,000 that would require a 20% match, which would be $239,000. So we'd have available to us, let's just call it $1.2 million. The match could come by way of in-kind services. That would mean if you have town employees working on something that they can attribute towards the project, that money would be counted as potentially a match. There's some additional reporting that goes to that. 239 is a big number to get to in
What
like
if
kind.
we have a town engineer and we do some
There's
of
a
that stuff?
potential you could do
Then we can bill it at those rates too, right? Even though, and make money with our engineer?
There's a potential that that would work if we can substantiate at the time associated with it, but yes, yep.
I know our town administrator suggests that we could get the match with free cash from the annual town meeting. That was his suggested approach.
That's always a fight, though.
Yeah.
Could be,
Look for
oh
it
yeah,
that way.
could be.
Requires going to town meeting.
But
We get
not
shut
if,
down
not if we have a
time to
good campaign that Jerry wants to do.
The other benefit, and again, I'm sorry, jumping around, but I'm just being mindful of time, is that the pump station that would be needed, the smaller pump station, the facilities associated with that could still be located at 35 State Road. The
We have that easement.
town has that easement, so it's another hurdle that you've already sort of overcome.
We took the land for the pumping station, a friendly taking.
So the prospective submersible pump station, or Route 6 segment that we're looking at could handle 350,000 gallons, which is a pretty decent amount of flow to start off with, but 350,000 gallons per day. As I said, that's about $600,000. That include the excavation, the pump station, and all the controls. And that represents a scaled-down version from the original bid.
I'd like to make one comment on that.
Sure.
Roger, that's a good point to get that done. Like if we, because pump stations getting the equipment. So like when I had talked to Gioso when he bid the whole line for us.
Okay.
And he said it was no problem, he'd blow that job out in a year. He said, but it's gonna take me 2 years to get the pump stations
Yeah,
online.
right.
So if we started a pump station now, in that first phase, when we get more money, like we keep trying to get more money, the pump station's ready.
Yep.
You know, we got a whole year to try to find more money, while it's gonna take 2 years to spend that $1 million.
Right.
So you could size the pump station.
It's already been
For
done.
expansion.
It's already been done. We got that design, it's already complete. And that doesn't, like Bob said, it doesn't go bad. So, and neither does the permit. And that would be the ideal thing, instead of waiting to get all the money, and then you put the line in, and you gotta wait another year anyway to get the pump station up. If you had enough to put one pump station, that would solve that would be the one at White's first. We'd have to do that one first, I believe.
Yeah, this one would be located across the street at 35, but yes.
Yeah. I mean, basically, if we did a piece of sewer, we're in round numbers, $2 million short. So we gotta find $2 million. Go into town meeting for that, it's gonna be a tough sell. So the question really comes, okay, so if we fight that fight, what are we buying? We're buying a piece of gravity sewer from, the downhill piece, we're buying a piece of pipe that will work in the future, but we're buying a piece, and we're buying the connection to the Fall River system with a smaller pumping station than we'll eventually need, but I think with a clever design, we could build the wet well, and we could build components for the future and then just put in smaller pumps. So there's that alternative.
We had developers also looking in that area, because you have the housing project right on the water there. Their septic is done, they were looking for
Yeah.
it. They have the yellow freight building that's looking for expansion.
So there's that alternative, and this is what we need to find an additional $2 million, and this is, if we did that project, this is who would benefit from it. And there's that argument. The other argument is, the argument is never to walk away from the $1 million that we had to, we'll never get it.
That's the campaign, you know, and if they get, Carroll Brothers gotta go redo that septic
Right.
up there, that's probably $500,000-600,000. I don't even know today. It could be $1 million just for that. Wow.
But if you went, if you took the $1.2 million,
They're spending 70 or 80,000 a year in maintenance on that system.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's a lot of money to borrow money if they wanted to give us $1 million, you know what I mean? They're spending 70, 80,000 a year right now. It might be very, very lucrative to them guys, you know? Say, hey, we're short this. Can you come up with it?
and
We can knock on some doors. That's what we need to
You
do.
have to see, the mechanism for how that's going to work, and not only do we have their support, but is there some mechanism for having that work? And the other thing that you looked at was, well, if we did we had the $1.2 million, could we just do more water? And is there a real need to the people, now that we got people signing up, if there are people, as Jerry said, what are these rumors, when is the water coming to us? Do you not do the sewer and do a water system?
And I think that's the route we have to go, because we could, we have this map with, several options.
Well, can I just interrupt?
Let me just finish.
Well, we were talking on sewer and you jump in the water again.
Well, no,
I
he
kinda
made,
disagree with you.
the
I
person
know I
running the
love Bob
meeting
and
made
Chair,
a,
but Maury?
Okay,
Can I just
okay.
make one little point here?
okay.
So, we had the problem, we don't have sewer. And that was the problem in the thing. So if we got a little small sewer project completed, that can help us continue, like we said, we're gonna take baby steps to get the sewer down. And why don't we just go for another PFAS grant for the church? We gotta go up that road. Let's pursue that. All I know is the other towns that I've worked in, because I don't work in, since I've been on the planning board, I do not work in Westport, okay? Since I've been on the select board, I do not work in Westport. But I've worked in every town in the area for 40 years, okay? Dayton and Somerset, where I grew up, they continuously get at least $1 million a year for expansion of their water. I mean, so Charlie Fisher does it in Dayton, and Coastal, the one that does our work here, does it in Somerset and Swansea. Swansea does the same thing. So why don't we try to get more money? Let's get this project off the ground. We've already taken the easements. Try, at least until September, let's try to push this way and see if we can look this year for more.
I
PFAS.
disagree with Manny, our chair.
You sound like Jake.
And the reason is, I guess I have my tail between my legs a little bit because of the horrible defeat we had in
Well,
2024.
we knew that was gonna happen.
And I think that sewer is a dirty word in the town of Westport right now. However, we've had an extension of the water line. We still have $1 million or $1.2 million if we were to sell it to town meeting. And I think that's the route we ought to take. I think we should try to utilize the monies that we have before we lose them.
You want to take a vote?
And I don't think this administration is going to give out any more PFAS grants.
So you want to recommend that to the selectmen? Is that what you want?
So that would be my recommendation. I mean, we have to talk, we have to get everybody's opinion, but I think that the feasibility study that Roger prepared is pretty clear. We don't have the money. And also, I know that our town administrator, who's very, very experienced in sewer projects, is worried about the flow, because there's not enough flow to really justify the expense of running the pump, even if we were to afford the pump. And so the money really argues against a very small project. But I think we can best serve the citizens here in Westport to take this CDS grant money and to do a couple of these options that are outlined by Roger. And that would be an extension of the water line and would not be sewer. And that's what I would favor here.
I won't vote for that.
I think as a responsible board, we should always be trying to get money.
Yep.
Grants, never stop trying for the town of Westport. And
I agree with that.
when we proposed, we meant well, we proposed that sewer and water project, and the town meeting rejected it, and probably rightly so. It was big. And we heard the residents speaking about school buses, schools, other priorities. Okay, so I think it should be lesson learned that as a responsible oversight committee, keyword oversight, that we should think of spending a few dollars before our budget is broke for preventive maintenance for those rusted fire hydrants, while it's just paint. Because in a few more years, when they're breaking and there's problems or some homeowner's house is on fire and it doesn't work, and we didn't maintain them,
Want to make a motion? Make a motion, we'll put it to the
what
select.
good were we?
Joe, there's money for that. I don't have the exact numbers, but we have something on the order of $250,000 in the enterprise fund right now.
Can we check on that?
And, well, I've got the number in this wad of papers. I just
Because I
couldn't
really
compare
think it's
it.
our responsibility to maintain it.
And it is. And
Because
there's money there. Let me just finish. There's money there. There's $250,000. About 140 of that is part of a deal with Fall River, to get this thing.
Well,
So
money's money.
so we would still have about $100,000 in the enterprise fund, maybe 110, 120, in the enterprise fund, specifically designated for maintenance. And that'll paint a lot of fire hydrants, and the money's there. And that gets back to my point, that this committee could, on an ongoing basis, oversee the existing water line better than we have in the past.
I think as a responsible
It isn't a
board,
matter of
we should-
overseeing, it's who's going to do it?
well, let's get the ball rolling.
I don't think it can be done relying on volunteers like we are.
No, I mean, there's gotta be a program. Is this, does the fire department go out and paint these? Do they exercise the hydrants? Do they oil and grease them and? Who does
No,
it?
no, but,
Well, the
we are
commissioners, selectmen
spending,
and
wait a minute, we
commissioners,
are
we got
spending
town council do
$35,000 a year, and a chunk of that, like 8 or 10,000, is Linda Correa, and who is the operator of our system. And she could be the one who could say what fire hydrants need maintenance, or maybe she could just detect peeling paint or something, I don't know. But it starts there,
Well, we know they need it, so.
and it starts there,
we don't need to ask
and, but we could do that now. I mean, we don't have to, I think, allocate
Here-
part of that 259.
Here's what I don't want to happen, Maury, all kidding
Yeah.
aside. I saw them, they're rusty.
Yeah.
So if there's a fire, there's a failure. Or if they rust a little more and they start breaking. And then we got to face the taxpayers at a meeting, and we have to face mothers with school children, with other priorities.
Yeah.
And at that point, if they fail or if they break, we didn't do our job.
Joe, Bob and I went before the Board of Selectmen, and we got a rate increase to cover operating expenses. And so it's not the money, but it is the oversight. And the chair of the Select Board admitted, they're not overseeing the system. And that's a job we could undertake. Now, all we can do is make recommendations. But we can recommend that a consultant or a repairman, study the hydrants.
They don't need to be studied, they need to be.
We actually have a few hydrants. Jim Hartnett, our administrator, mentioned that buried in all the money we've spent, he's got a couple extra hydrants at the hydrant department,
It doesn't-
brand new ones.
They keep them there all the time.
It doesn't need
Yep.
a study, it just actually.
Needs to be done.
Needs to go out and
Yeah.
paint them.
Well, we can make a recommendation for the
Put a
the
contract out to
commissioners
paint the hydrants.
to study and repair the water hydrants and to have a regular maintenance program for the water hydrants. We can do that. And we can do it right now. I mean, it's not on the agenda.
Or maybe we could just,
We do it at the September meeting.
maybe we could just do our homework a little bit.
Yeah.
And decide, maybe we can come up with a few options.
Yeah.
And then we'll present the right option to the select.
I mean, Joe, this is your profession, right? And so why don't we get in a car someday and just drive around
He's
and,
already done that.
I'm retired.
yep,
I was never an engineer. I was
you're inspector.
experienced infrastructure inspector.
Yes, well, you're the guy. Let's do it. And we'll make a list.
What's on preventive maintenance? That's why.
You were an operator at the sewer plant, so you had a license.
So let's plan on the September meeting, putting hydrant maintenance on the agenda, and have a proposal for the
that'd be
select
fantastic.
board.
What is, so far, we've heard two opinions, and Manny thinks that we should, with the Keating earmark money or the direct congressional spending, that we should tackle the first, important connection to Fall River and the piece of sewer. And Maury thinks that that's a tough battle, and we're better off spending water. What do other people think?
Well, I make a point on the water. I mean, I'm not against expanding the water, like I said, I think we should look for more money for the water that we should have last year asked. Because we've known about the problem up at Our Lady of Grace Church, we've known about the problem at the fire station on Briggs Road. They both have contaminated wells. When I talked to the DEP, they were gonna give the church $150,000 for a filter until I told him where the church was, and he says, oh, I didn't know it was there. I thought it was in the south end of town. So we already know about the contamination. We know there was a landfill, there's houses built in a landfill up there. So we need to pursue getting that loop that we, Briggs and around. I don't necessarily think that this money's for that, and we're talking about $200,000 for $1 million that we got. I don't, we waste that money on studies. To do work, we're not gonna spend that money to do work. I mean, how many millions have we wasted on the study for the sewer? Now we're not gonna spend $1 million that we got because, I mean, we gotta be $4 million between studies and designs and everything for the sewer. Now, because we gotta spend $200,000 to use $1 million, we're not gonna do that? I mean, that money was earmarked that we could use it for sewer. So we're saying,
Yeah.
the PFAS grant money, we had to use for water. So why are we gonna we can ask for another PFAS grant money. We got the biggest one ever. Well, that was for 1 year. It's still, maybe they'll give us a small one, maybe they'll give us $1 million one. We can start up that road.
The Trump administration is not doing any more of that, Manny.
There's PFAS grant money out there still. That ain't dead in the water.
So there is money aside for that somewhere, Mario.
What I'm saying is, yeah, I'm trying to look for the actual
Just in
number.
case Roger spends all the money we have now. Because we gotta know, the right hand's gotta know what the left hand is
There's a new
doing.
tranche already.
Roger, did you apply for the engineer spot?
What's that?
I can't find the actual number,
Not yet.
but there's $100,000 there.
Yeah, what?
Interested, I'm interested.
Roger,
I mean, we're losing Jimmy,
I don't-
we've got somebody with knowledge, I mean.
I appreciate
out
it.
of that
For an interview or-
259,000,
Right.
Roger, that's
sir.
259,000 as we have right now. Is that gonna be a zero at our next meeting?
It's
No.
8:00.
It's already expensed, he's already in there.
Yeah.
Is that gonna be a zero at our next meeting?
Maury,
No?
sit down.
I want to just show him something. That's what we're spending on operating expenses already.
Are there other opinions about, what I would what I would recommend is that we
That's good.
go to.
Can I have this, Maury?
No, that's my only copy, but I can get you a copy.
I knew it was good information when I asked for it.
We might be able to make a copy right soon.
Wait,
You get the key to the store, you're the selectman here.
I do have the key to the store, but it's not in the vehicle I'm driving.
Right. Other opinions about whether it's, I agree that it's always wise to continue to pursue grants, fund
Yeah.
the SRF fund, all of that is good work. But I can tell you that the only people who do that, the only staff that we have that does that is in the planning board. And so the planning board actually has been able to hang on to a planner, an assistant planner, and they fill the role, that the town engineer, public works director, those guys, for chasing grants, they do that. So we can recommend that they do that, that the board of selectmen.
That's a great idea. I'm glad you told me that. Bob, I wasn't sure if it was only Jimmy that did it, and he's got a town full. So, we've had our hands
Retiring in
full.
September.
We've had our hands full since a couple of town meetings ago, since we've had this money, and we've tried to get projects passed. We've had our hands full. So now that the dust is starting to settle, and you have another grant writer besides Jimmy, why don't we stop following through on some things like that as a board? We've got more time now. Can we have that person attend our next meeting and talk to him about this? Can he attend our next meeting or the one after that?
Planner, I mean, he's kind of helping us out. That's kind of why we want to get a town engineer. So like I said, we're posted a position, we should pursue applicants to come in.
We could follow through per se. I mean, have a conversation with the guy, let him know what we're interested in, and just, he can tell us what he can do, can't do, might be able to do.
Can
Follow through, in other words.
I just say, just in terms of pursuing grants, and all, the answer to that would be yes. I think
Yeah.
everybody agrees, and we have,
We know what they are, we know
yes,
the process for
Yes.
filing for them.
yes. So let's assume that's a given, that's gonna transpire. But in terms of just to get, and I don't, but to get back to the study, one of the CDS grant does not have an expiration date, but in this study, I also made a note, there is always a risk that they can that the state can, or the feds can say, I want that money back. So there's no expiration date per se, but I just want to make sure everyone understands that 4 years from now, if we're still having this conversation, then there's always that risk. I think
But wouldn't it make sense for our board to talk to the grant writer? In other words, we're applying for this one now, if we don't get it, this one's coming up later, we'll try for that one.
Well, yeah, the grant writing's a given, Joe. I think everybody's saying that the intent is
We can know what we're
to
doing.
write grants, and that's how we got to this point, based on a grant. But in terms of just going back to the CDS grant, we've identified in the feasibility, and I don't know if you folks have a chance, but it's 14 pages, 15 pages, but at the end, just taking an objective look, we did say in section 10, page 13, like, the alternative would be a water main installation. That's not I'm just putting that out there as an option. And that would provide up to, I think we've got up to, provide up to 2,500 feet more of water. So, the estimate that we provided in the feasibility doesn't include laterals, because one of the challenges on that section is you're not going to have a lot of people connecting to the sewer. It's not that long in that particular section. And then we did identify in this feasibility stuff, like what your O&M costs might look like, just maintaining that 2,700 feet.
Did you have a hand in helping us get this grant, or was it solely Senator Rodrick's?
So the PWID grant, the PFAS grant, we worked with Kleinfelder to get that. So Kleinfelder,
did?
myself, and Jim, we put that together.
And you got it?
And we got the $4 million.
Can-
We did apply for Mass Work grants twice that I recall, and I wrote
So
those
can you-
grants, those did not,
Can you tell us roughly how much that cost us to have you do that? How much did it cost us to have, for your time, to get us one grant?
it's probably a week's worth of work to.
So how much
to
is
less
that?
than a week's, depending on the grant. The PFAS grant was much easier,
How much money was that
you know,
to get us a grant through your company, your time?
so, you know, if you're looking at it, let's call it $3,000. or
$3,000.
To write a grant like that, something like that.
How about we save a few, $3,000 or $5,000 out of this money and see if Roger can get us another grant before we spend all the money?
We can certainly talk,
Yeah.
that's simple. We can talk to the town administrator about authorizing that to happen.
Yeah.
But what,
We-
what does this
we have
committee, what
recently,
does this committee, does the committee think we should wage a campaign? Because the sewer went down, people told me they don't want the growth. They think that the sewer will spurn growth and change the town, and they see that as negative. I'm not one of those persons, because I think the economic, you know, if we look at if we're ever going to get out of this structural deficit we have, we need to have economic growth, commercial growth that provides a net tax benefit to us. What's the market for that growth? What's the, you know, I can tell you, we sit in the planning board. We have very few applications to build anything. Nobody, everyone would love to come here. They want to tear down a little cottage they buy for $600,000, and they want to build a $1.6 million house on the water. That we can sell all day long. We don't have to sell that. They do that any opportunity. But
I think we've got a pretty good agenda coming up for our next meeting. You know, we've got some good ammunition here. Roger, what's the next grant that you see available out there?
well, we have to, if we went for the state revolving fund for either water or sewer, there's a deadline for filing that this summer.
I think
I'd
should
like
look
to
for a
recommend
room
at least-
For Briggs,
Yeah,
Sanford.
you have to keep, yeah.
That'd be one to look for.
You have between today and May of next year, town meeting, if you were to apply for a grant right now and you were awarded that grant, depending on the grant, that money wouldn't be available to
Until
potentially
next
after.
year.
That's why we need to do it for next year.
So at the same time, if your intent is to go to town meeting and ask for the match, the schedule doesn't allow that. Like the the MassWorks stuff is.
Go to town
coming up.
meeting and asking for money.
The SRF funding is also coming up,
The
but
MassWorks grant, we've learned our lesson.
it doesn't.
The MassWorks grant, the work that we want to do and fund by the MassWorks grant is all eligible, but
Yeah.
they only give the grants if there is someone who wants to
Okay.
build.
We got housing,
Okay,
wants to build.
so, Mr. Vice
Elderly
Chairman,
housing can expand.
Bob, I have a procedural
100
question.
units on that.
Procedural question. What would it take right now or the next meeting for this board to vote on, while we have the money right now and while we have Roger on board, to give the okay to spend that few $1,000s, while we have it, while he's on board, for him to apply for that next grant? How would we procedurally do that?
If you make a motion, there's a second, we'll take a vote.
Make a motion.
I would like to make a motion at this time, while we have the money and we have a proven consulting engineer on board, that we pay for him to apply for the next available grant while we have the money and while he's got a proven track record.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, guys.
Now, it's, Now.
Let me just, a couple of things I'd like to just
Sure.
interject here. First of all, in this list that Roger showed us, we've already allocated 75,000 a second time for Roger. And I don't think you've spent the whole 75, have you? So there's plenty of room for
Yeah.
$3,000 here and $3,000 there for grants. The second thing is the CDS grant it is not open-ended, it's 4 years, and I think that clock started last year in 2024. So that would mean we have to do something with it in 3 years. And I think it has not been clawed back by the,
Yeah, I think it
By
has.
the Trump.
I think that's exactly right, Marty.
I don't think it's been clawed back by Trump.
I think too, on those commercial guys in that first piece, I mean, they've been calling me asking, how can I tie in? We want to tie in, how do we do that sewer-wise? So I think if we go down and we get together with them, we bring the ones that wanted to develop the old truck terminal, Edgewater, that needs a new septic. And another thing we can look at is, so all around the Watuppa, that's part of reservoir. We need to bring sewer around there. Sewer around that Watuppa, I mean, you'd agree it's gonna be E1 pumps around the Watuppa to get that back to our system, pretty much. I don't see any other way, once you get over the piece of gravity we got up, it's gonna be E1 pumps. So another thing, so Bristol Pacific has a project in Fall River that they did, very, very large housing project on North Farm, they call it. All E1 pumps, okay? E1 pumps will design the system for free. If we came up with something and said, listen, we want a sewer around the Watuppa, which we need to, and Fall River's gonna be pressing us to do it, they've done it on their side, will you design this for us? Reach out to them and say, hey, look at this, we got a sewer design of the trunk line?
Those are not the problems. The problems are, what are we pursuing and why are we pursuing it? Are we pursuing both water and sewer? Are we pursuing water? What are we going to recommend because at the end of the day, if we're applying for the grant, someone has to, either you or the town has to administer the grants, and it has to, we have to have some purpose for the grant. Are we pursuing both sewer and water?
I think we have no choice. I mean, when you looked at those connections, those people, like you said, on those undersized lots, and Bob was saying how big the lots are. So even with the new technology, on them systems, they're still not compliant on those lots.
Yeah.
So if they do an upgrade, and that cost, some of the ones on Briggs were like $80,000, they're still not compliant. So it's kind of wasted, it's not getting us out of it.
So my feeling is that right now, we should go to the Board of Selectmen and request using the money for a water line extension. And we can go out and get grants. We obviously don't have any money for this little
Right.
small gravity-fed stub sewer. Let's spend the money on a water line extension and then go for the big bucks, whether it's Mass Grant or whatever,
So you wanna Sanford Road waterline extension?
whatever Roger could come up with.
Yeah.
Well, Sanford Road extension, that would be
Make a motion for that.
$5 million,
Oh,
okay?
so you got $1 million, you're saying baby steps for sewer,
Yeah,
let's baby steps for water then. We know we got contamination at the church, let's start heading that way.
so I think we ought to focus now on the water line extension. If we want to try to get, free cash out of town meeting, we have to start
We're gonna
in
get the most
September.
customers that way.
I think Jim Harden had said. So I think we ought to focus on a water line extension with the $1 million that we have, and then meanwhile, go for grants,
I
but
would
they're
like
further out there.
clarification on something Bob mentioned earlier, and that is the physical location restrictions on the grants we have. When you reported tonight, you said on Route 6. I don't know if that was the water, the sewer, or both, or what, but you said on Route 6. I've also have heard in other meetings where the area in the north end, on the area of Route 6.
It is the area of Route 6, Jerry.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be on.
It doesn't have to be a pipe
Yes.
in Route 6.
If we go to apply for additional grants for anything up there, I think we need to be careful that it's clear that it's not just on Route 6. that
Yes.
It's in the area, because that's where most of the houses are. So.
Well, we got 3,000 undersized lots up there.
I mean, so one thing I learned
This-
as part of the water project, and it was a bit of a lesson to me, there was definitely a
A need.
need, definitely like some of the most basic human needs, like just water, you know,
There's no question, it's
Yeah.
a real need.
yeah,
You
so
wouldn't know it if you went to the meeting. Then.
Well, the people that need it are afraid to come.
and that's right, they haven't been very vocal. The water would definitely be an easier lift. The sewer, the O&M costs would exceed what you would generate even if you did have folks, because in the estimate, we didn't include any lateral work, so that would increase the cost somewhat, but even with those connections, even if you assumed you connected the hotel and Whites of Westport and all those properties, it still would not be enough to pay for the O&M associated, because remember, now we've got a pump, and that we've got to maintain is a high level of maintenance, and the maintenance costs associated with that 2,700 feet and the pump are included in the study. So if you haven't read it, I would suggest that you take a look at it, because you'd have to find some way to pay for that service.
So if we expanded that sewer into that area, would both of the Carrig housing projects hook up to it? Both of them, not just the Borden Street.
Well, Carrick would definitely connect Borden Street.
Yeah, definitely that.
Is that within?
Well, Edgewater comes out of
It's
Borden.
it's a little short stub headed south off of the Gravity Road.
Right
Just once you get, just when you get physically beyond South Watuppa, there's a little shopping centers.
Okay,
Just after those shopping centers, there's a little road that runs in parallel with Stanford, roughly.
okay.
All you need is a stub in the street, they'd bring it the rest of the way. You
Right.
Put a stub out of Route 6 and they'd take it.
Okay.
And then they would go forward with their other project with a
Goes
truck.
right along the water.
Okay,
Right along
They,
the
they,
water.
they call constantly.
yeah.
Gary Michaels is always asking what he can do.
I agree with, I agree with Maury on, you know, with the money we have in hand, tackle the water. But looking at the housing need, the ability to extend, you know, we could run all the water we want by the existing, you know, Greenwood housing project, but unless we give them a sewer, they can't
That's
build
right.
more housing.
That's right.
So, you know, and that step, and we had, the town meeting turned it down, but we had wonderful, below the engineer's estimate bids and everything, and we won't see those again, but, you know, not the little short piece that we're talking now, but the first phase that goes all the way down to Meatworks, we estimated that at $7 million. If we did that a couple of years from now, it probably is 7. And we estimated 7, and it came in at 5 and change. So let's say we go back out, the same bidders, the same good, that 5 is now 7
Yeah,
easily.
that sounds about right, yeah.
So,
And they're still struggling over there.
One thing that concerns me
Yeah,
is
it's a lot of money on getting rid of the waste.
yep,
the verbiage at town meeting and after town meeting. The town voted down having sewer.
yes,
The town
absolutely.
voted down having sewer. The town didn't vote down having sewer. The town voted down $31 million to pay for it.
Borrowing's what they
And
voted.
so, you know, I just think that
And the
we
bid
have
was
to
21.
overcome that.
Yeah.
And we, Maury and I heard and you heard the same words the other day. The town voted against sewer and water.
Yeah, we're still hearing it. Well, Jake himself
Yeah,
has said it in his campaign.
so I think should be our
Thrasher
recommendation.
said it in his campaign too.
That should be our recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, that we pursue, you know, the sewer is still a thing to do for economic developments, for all the reasons before that we failed to sell. It's still a good idea. but not, we might as well fight, if we're gonna have a fight, we might as well have a big fight for a purpose and use the money we have in hand to get at least a piece over Briggs to the fire station, solve that problem for the fire station. So we gotta, you know, we have a fire station, they can't drink the water there because of PFAS. Let's do that piece.
Did we get a design on that?
No, but I think we could, with a little more work, we can kind of do what we did over on East Briggs
Yeah.
and not
You-
spend,
you
I
don't
mean,
need-
years
Yeah,
ago.
it's no need, it's water, it's pretty simple.
Yeah, you
But I
know,
know we put in a 12-inch,
when I could spend a ton of money
there,
on design.
And-
at the corner of Briggs.
I think we spent 15 grand or
And
something.
that should be a 12-inch, because that's loop,
That's why we
eventually
need
should be a
in-house.
12-inch.
That should be a 12-incher in the beginning of a loop, yep.
I stuck my head in the catch basins myself.
Gentlemen, I'm going to leave at 8:30, whether we're
We're
finished.
ready for,
We got
we're
plenty of other
ready for
people
a
that help
motion.
with that too, you know.
Do I hear a motion to,
Do we have a
adjourn?
motion?
Is there a second to my, Murray's?
What is the motion?
All in favor to adjourn?
Could I have,
Aren't we going to make a decision on, we're not
based
going
on
to
the
make a decision,
discussion we
okay.
had, did you get the feeling for an answer what you asked the question? Do we-
No.
Do we as a committee feel that we should go water or sewer? What's your feeling? You see, that's what happens.
Well, I will make a motion, and maybe it won't get a second, maybe it won't pass, but I would like to make a motion to use the CDS grant plus the 20%, try to get that at town meeting, plus the 259 that we have left over from ARPA. It comes to about $1.5 million, and I make a motion to extend the water line with these kind of projects that have been suggested, including the Briggs Road Fire Station. So that's my motion.
Marty, if that motion flies, does that leave a few thousand for my motion left for Roger to apply for another
It's
grant?
already in,
Roger's got enough
Yeah,
money.
it's already in the budget.
He already has the money.
Roger's got the money, we don't need that.
Can I-
Sorry,
Mr.
But I heard
Chair,
you
can I
say-
show it to
I heard you
Joe?
say you wanted to shoot just for the extension only.
No, we don't have to waste time, that's all.
So we have enough money for both?
Look here, just look here. Fern Corp., that's Roger Fernandez, Fern Corp., 75,000.
I know Roger.
That's the second allocation, and Roger, you haven't spent the whole 75.
So there's enough money for both
How
motions?
much is left? How much is left, Roger, of the 75?
30,000.
30,000. So you got 30,000 for your $3,000. Okay.
Maury, I want to ask you a clarification of your motion, and that is, I heard, first of all, I thought we were talking 259, but we're talking some other grants and so forth in your motion.
Well, we've already made a motion on grants. We're going to have the town planner and the town administrator and Roger look at
Seek
grants.
grants.
Huh?
To seek more grants.
Seek more
I
grants.
understand that.
No, my motion is specific to the approximately 1.5 million that we already have if we get the
Which grant?
the
is that
20%
for?
grant at
What
ATM,
is that grant called?
to the water line extension. And this map,
Spend the money we have.
In his motion,
here, this very colorful map that Roger has at the end of his
yeah, I
presentation.
understand that.
There's option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4.
I'll
No,
second
but-
that.
None of
And
them
we
go
should
to-
use that money for these options.
None of them go to the Our Lady of Grace Church, do they?
No, that's a $5 million thing. We've only got
That's why I'm
1.5
asking the
million.
question.
We've only have
I wanna be clear
1.5 million,
what
yes.
we're voting
It's
on.
not, that's a 5 million,
Only to the fire station.
only to the fire station,
so-
but then there's several others.
The side streets like on where the Nook is, because there was people that wanted to
Yeah.
tie in that, let's get the loops going in there.
Can I make
Sorry,
can I make a recommendation, Mr. Vice Chair?
Numbers don't add
So I
up.
think it'd be good just to get the the vote to say that you want to spend the money on water. Then we'll come back with we have some options, but then we'll make those options come
I'll
close.
second that, Maury.
What would you do?
Yeah, what would you do? Yeah.
Thank you,
And
man.
by the way, I would just say it's the 259 is as of today. If there's an additional change order or something comes up, I just want to make sure we know that they could go up or down.
It might not.
So, but we can come back to you with some options and the committee can decide we'll do this street.
Exactly.
So we have a motion?
So,
Yeah.
we're,
We have a motion and we have a second, Mr.
Second.
Vice Chair. Manny seconded my motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Wait, that wasn't even painful, Maury.
so we're starting to run out of money, obviously. And.
We just
so
got another $1 million in water pipe.
We're coming up with some creative ways not to burn the taxpayer
With the word in
anymore,
that.
right?
Yeah, we got those other streets.
Nice.
There was people on the Nook, so the Nook's a dead end.
I'm
You know,
just
that's
saying,
doing our job.
when it translates from this meeting, so we're all verbal, that we need to know the
Roger
exact
knows,
wording of that.
Roger knows what we need. He's boots
What
on the
we- what
ground.
we're
He knows
gonna
what's
do is
going on.
With the
He knows
the
what's-
available money
Keep 'em.
we have,
Let's keep 'em.
Roger is going to look at what that money buys.
Right.
Yep,
Yes.
Perfect.
yep.
So the.
I want to make a
it was
second
more-
motion.
It was more general.
I want to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I like that motion.